Hey, I'm Sadi, short for Sad is my cup of tea. The Revive kits are awesome. Taking older kits and giving them a redesign for modern sensibilities is great for the new audience of the Gunpla hobby. There is always a place for the originals, but these newer kits were made to improve and impress. And with the HGUC line starting with the Guncannon, of course Bandai has to pay the respects to that guy by making the first ever Revive kit a new and improved RX 77-2 Guncannon. If you're wondering why I have this, I mean there are plenty of reviews for the Guncannon online. Well, this was just an impulse buy because I was on a model kit review hiatus. I didn't want to review a model kit because I was burned out from not enjoying them. I bought this just for fun and found out that I missed out on quite a kit, and I just want to talk about this cool thing. Of course, since I didn't have plans to review this, I don't have any unboxing or even runner footage, so I'll just be using the scans of the Banimal provided on dalong.net, which I'm very grateful for its existence. After around an hour or so, we have the Revive Guncannon, and I never really cared originally for the Guncannon design, but this really sold me because I adore it so much. Again, this isn't the first time we got the Guncannon in the HGUC line, and I don't have the original kit for comparison, but then again, I really feel like it's a disservice to that very first HGUC kit to compare it with its newer version. They're 16 years apart, of course they're gonna be incredibly different. This one goes for much more of a handsome appearance, as you can tell by the crisp, sharp shapes and the bold proportions, while still maintaining a general animation-accurate aesthetic with only minimal, tasteful panel lines and a sense of faithfulness to the Guncannon details. The color scheme merges old and new design philosophies, with most of the colors being the modern, darker, realistic tones, but the head still has a minty hue to the white, which altogether makes for a pretty nice looking design. There's very little to mess up with the Guncannon, but that just makes this all the better as a model kit, because construction-wise it's pretty impressive. It's almost perfectly separated with only minor color correction needed, and even those are tiny details. The head Vulcans and the vents on the side of the chest, so to speak. And also the seam lines are at a minimum, with the only ones present being because there's simply not a better way to construct them. In particular, we're looking at the common head seam, a seam going down the spherical shoulder pads, a split down the length of most of the cannon barrel, and this line going along the two halves of the backpack. They're really not intrusive by any means and are easily fixed with a bit of cementing. A few other things of note about the aesthetics of the kit: I recommend you paint and or panel line the details inside of the visor to make it really stand out, and also, this may be more of a personal preference, but the two antennas seem really close together. In a lot of other depictions, it's far more spread out and slanted. Oh, and you do actually get a sheet of sticker decals to designate which Guncannon unit you have. 108 is the Kaishiren unit, 109 is the Hayato Kobayashi unit, and 203 is from Mobile Suit Gundam Battlefield Record Avant title with no known pilot. Two smaller decals are for the left side of the chest and the right foot, and the bigger decal is for its left shin. What the Guncannon comes with isn't all a lot, but for such a simple mobile suit, we don't necessarily need an armory. First of which is of course the Guncannon's beam rifle, gorgeously detailed and even features a sight that slightly moves around. The main body of the rifle does have a seam going along it, but it's so hard to notice that it almost looks like a perfect weapon, and when you put it in the hands of the Guncannon, it looks right at home and is very beautiful with the model. To open up the hands, it is of course the back splitting type, though this one has a part of the actual hand attached to it. It does bring up an issue though, where the part of the hand doesn't exactly align with the rest of the thumb, but that's a very superficial problem, and again, that's not too hard to fix for a modeler. There is a reason for this gap though. It makes it easier to split the hands apart, but it's honestly not too hard to split the hands in the first place, so yeah, I'll fix this after the review. And yes, these are Guncannon specific hands, and I don't think there are any other model kits with hands like what you get from this kit. I'm of course only saying design wise. You do only get a pretty typical pair of open fists and these spread hands, made for you to either support the weapons, use as dynamic hands, or its intended purpose, putting the Guncannon in its signature firing pose, which we'll do after we first take a look at— Hey, editing Sadi over here. I wasn't originally supposed to talk about the missile pods until I talked to a friend and they asked for it. Both the original high grade, the Kukuru's Do 1 high grade, and the master grade comes with a missile pod, so it is a notable exclusion from this kit. It's left to the P Bandai real type version of this kit to have that accessory, and I know many people may see this as scumbag bullshit from Bandai's end. I really don't think it's that bad of an exclusion. Yes, it's unfortunate, and it really would have been kinda cool to have the option for it. But what we have is already a balanced accessory loadout that makes the kit fun. It's not that bad that we didn't get it, and I can't in good conscience complain about it. So yeah, with that out of the way, back to the review, and also I'm really sorry for my really sick voice right now. Starting from the head, and while it does have very limited movement from the ball joint, it's just something that comes with the design, so I can't really put points off that. And it's made up for with a neck hinge joint that allows for a pretty good look upwards. The cannons are simply on a hinge as well, but it can move up to 90 degrees upwards and very little downwards. And all the rest of the articulation afterwards is the standard high-grade fare of what you'd expect from 2015, which is to say it's very nicely articulated with minimal setbacks, and what setbacks you do get have a workaround or are simply just inherent to the design. And that's another thing to take note. The Guncannon's rotund and bulky physique lends itself very well to this articulation style. It's more than enough to make this heavy machine look quite dynamic. It never needed this much flexibility, but this is a very welcome addition and makes the Revive Guncannon much more fun to play around with. And here's something new I want to implement in my Plamo reviews, the construction of the kit in its different parts for all of you kit bashers out there. Cool enough that we also get a bit of frame construction on the arms of the kit and the thighs, which are a nightmare to remove. Build-wise, it's solid, has a nice and rigid plastic quality. It uses the 002 polycaps, which results in smooth yet tight joints for a pleasing playing experience. I only have a few loose joints, but that's from me playing with this kit for about a month now. Except the neck joint. I'm pretty sure that's because of the plastic to plastic connection. I had that out of the box. And as usual, you get a 3mm stand port for your area poses. Now, getting the Guncannon to do its signature pose is a bit awkward, not because of the articulation, but rather because the pose itself is awkward and odd. Not really something I'd recommend displaying, as it just looks like your robot's doing push-ups. The Revive Guncannon stands a little over the 12cm mark, and yeah, I got myself a new proper ruler. Anyways, it's a high-grade 1/144th scale model, and mathematically it checks out pretty well. For size comparison, here it is with the standard smaller size mobile suit, the HGUC 191 RX-782 Revive, which is funnily enough the release after this one. And for the standard taller size mobile suit, we have the entry-grade New Gundam, or at least the bootleg version. Oh, and these really were just the only kits I could have used in my small collection for proper sizing. I'm not ripping off Hobby Clubhouse on purpose. As for the more Sadi kind of size comparisons, Figma Styles Chiaki, Fureyu Takaradarika, and the Sega PM figure Mamako Oski. And the Guncannon fits very nicely to complete my white base team with the RX-782 again, and also my HGUC 007 gun tank, which I love to bits. Now, I'm not here making this review because I think the Guncannon is some slept-on hidden gem model, but I know how easy it is to relegate this to just being a model that completes the white base team after getting your first RX-782 and getting the gun tank because it was very cheap. I used to think like that too, but I'm not gonna say it's a bad mentality by any means. Whatever motive you have for getting this model, you'll still have the same experience for the Guncannon, and knowing what modern audiences want, I'm sure you'll find yourself loving this guy, and I really do too. It's so simple, meaning it's good for even a beginner modeler, and the result is a photogenic, beautiful model that only has a few minor issues that you can fix yourself from just basic modeling skills. So, if you're a collector, modeler, or just someone wanting to quench your Plamo thirst, I'd recommend getting this guy. There's really nothing to regret.